You know how the producer's always saying, man, I want it to sound like Star Wars. I want it big, big. Here's $5.
I know.
Here's $5. So here's what you do. You say, okay, what's your budget? Okay, I've got $25,000, which you've got to make your salary and pay for the copies, by the way. And you go, okay, so here's what we can afford. You got a 9-hour sessions, where the sessions are divided by X number of musicians. You're going to get 14 strings, 25 strings. You can get 4 brass. I mean, that's what we can afford. He goes, well, yes, but I want it to sound like Star Wars. Well, let's see if it does. And you go ahead, you plug up the orchestra that the guy can afford. You say, okay, now here's your choice. Craft services, wigs, or the size of the orchestra. Your choice, bucko.
It sounds like you're carrying a little hostility.
Yeah.
How many of us have put our entire salaries in because we thought that would give the producer the thought that, oh, we're going to impress this guy.
Too many times.
Right. No, he's going to say, this guy worked too cheap. I'm going to use someone more expensive when I get a big job.
Yeah.
Recovering TV composers, raise your hands. Okay. So yeah, there's some hostility there. And rightfully so, because we don't have a union. We don't have a guild. They can do whatever they want to us, and they do. And because of that, we have to protect ourselves. The way we can do that is, first of all, for Christ's sake, guys, stop doing temp scores. Just tell them no. Just say no, number one. Number two, give them the orchestras that they can really afford by showing them what they can really get based on the money they've got. That was the other thing, you know, be able to do this.
But I think what also in a way, you've gone against that because now you're giving them a bigger orchestra than they can afford with, you know, on your keyboard.
Yeah, well, that's just it.
Right? You know, that's kind of the whole point.
But he takes all the money.
No, he doesn't. We do. I mean, you know, initially, you know, Chris makes a few bucks on this, but actually, if you can continue to work using whatever, you know, if you're using Vienna or if you're using AI strings or if you're using East-West, you're going to be the one working. And
Oh, that's what I meant.
But so the composer takes all the money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, Chris gets a bit.
And,
Yeah,
and the
of
musician
course.
gets fucked.
Could be, but I mean that started with the Lindrum, so I mean.
There is one very important thing I want to talk about the price. Okay, all right. Now, the idea behind this orchestra is to have every single sound up and running. All right. So, if those of you that don't mind loading and unloading stuff so you get on one computer, then this is probably not the orchestra for you. You want to use something cheap because you don't mind the time. I recommend not getting this because you can get a lot cheaper on one computer, okay? The purpose of this is to have it running on 2 computers so that every single sound is there, okay? That's the idea behind it. Now, I do not want to get into a deal where I'm going to start knocking the other libraries because it's not cool, but
Please do.
no, I just have to say from a mechanical standpoint, if you were to actually take the same kind of things that we can do and do that with, you will end up with a lot more computers to do the same thing, a lot more. And when you start adding up our winds and brass and our percussion, I mean, we've already got over 100 winds and brass, way more.
Well, we're running. I mean, Kevin, how many computers do you run?
7.
Yeah, I'm running what, 7 gigs a day? 6 gigs.
Okay.
6 PCs plus 3 Macs.
Right.
9.
So 9.
So what do you got at 6 gigas?
Full orchestra, a lot of VSL, a lot of Vienna, a lot of AIs, all SAM stuff.
Yeah.
We're kind of slow to the SAM stuff.
But you still have to unload and unload stuff
No.
occasionally?
But that's why he's got.
Very rarely.
That's why he's got 9 machines in his.
But
room.
I use any unloading and loading I do
Okay.
in EXS.
We're looking at, with all 600 sounds, roughly 4 computers.
You know, one thing that that I think, I don't know how many people know how our process works. Maybe, Joel, you want to like talk about how you write a cue?
Yeah, I think we do it similar.
Sure.
I think, you know, it's. God, I wish I knew. I'm just like.
You take the temp track and you
Yeah,
change 3 notes.
Yes.
That's what I do.
Well, actually, you know, I'm actually blessed because the show that I work on, they never temp.
Hallelujah.
And
that's
that's and they've never, as a matter of fact, the movies that we're doing right now, they don't even temp.
So you're just totally dry. It's all up to you, right?
Yeah, well, they don't. We don't even spot it anymore.
Oh,
We
wow.
just, they just
Wow.
send me, and I rarely see them. They send me the video. But okay, so I get it. I
Start with a template.
I
You kinda
have a
got your
template.
string
I have
section,
a
right?
big template of basically an entire orchestra on a big huge Logic environment, and I spot the film with my music editor. We get what we're gonna. We have a list of cues that we're gonna do. I generally take something really easy to start with, just so I can get rolling. I decide what the dominant instrument is going to be of whatever, whether it's strings, whether it's piano or woodwinds or whatever, and I just start blocking it out. Work my way through the cue. I sketch the cue. Work all the way through it as a sketch.
Do you sketch it on piano or do you sketch it with
I will write themes often. I'll go downstairs in the living room and write themes on
Right.
piano. I generally don't sketch a cue.
It's amazing. I do the same exact.
Yeah, I'll write a theme on the piano because I feel like it's a, if you get the strings up, it's a lot, and also the rich harmonics of the piano makes it easier to hear things
Yeah.
for me. So I'll write a theme on the piano, then I'll go ahead and sketch the cue all the way through with whatever instruments. Sometimes I'll just work my way through using some of these strings, and I'll go to woodwinds, and I'll go to whatever, and then I'll go back to the beginning, and then I'll start orchestrating all the way through. So within the initial sketch, I'll have my meter map and my tempo map all the way done as well.
Now, one of the things I come across is like, so I figure this is going to be like a semi-action cue. Say it's going to be like ripping off the Bourne, right? Because that's happening in temp tracks all the time. So I got to find a different way to do it. Do you? I mean, you've probably never done that because I'm only the one, but that rips off temp tracks. So, do you find like because what I do is like, so I've got my little spiccato. Because marcato is really not the right word for that kind of string sound.
Even though it says all the libraries call it.
All libraries call it, but I've got my little spiccato patch, and so I'll go through sonic implants, I'll go through East-West, I'll go through Vienna, I'll go through AI, and I'm each one I'll play the part in, and then do you like just say, oh, this sounds a little better in this instance? Do you ever like just go through like that?
Even as far as going between the different libraries.
Yeah, say
and
you've got
different sounds?
different libraries, and you got your spiccato patch, and you got 4 different ones from 4 different libraries.
That's a good idea.
Oh, really?
Honestly, generally I have the part, and I kind of find the sound that reacts best, because I often, maybe it's because I'm such old school.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a young guy like you.
Yeah.
It's what I'll do is I often adapt it's really one of the biggest drawbacks of electronics there is I'll adapt the part to make it sound right
Exactly.
with the sample that you're using.
So now you're writing to the patch.
You write for the patch, and you do that. If the A flat doesn't sound good on that patch, and you're using that patch and it works, you don't play an A flat. I know that's, I know many composers who would be rolling in their grave right now hearing that, but that's just a fact of life of doing synthetic symphonic simulation.
Were there perhaps equivalents though in their day? There's probably a now.
Probably.